Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, today we're going to be taking a look at League of Dungeoneers. So all of the text that you're going to see will say Dungeoneers, but the name is going to change once it hits Kickstarter. And this is a Kickstarter preview, and the game is going to hit, I believe, sometime in March of 2022. And this game is created by Michael Lundstedt. And it looks like a lot of the work is done, which fills me with quite a bit of confidence for the upcoming Kickstarter. This is one that Michael has been wanting me to take a look at for some time, and I was a little bit hesitant to, mainly because I pretty much knew I was already going to back this game. Michael is a member of the Dungeon Dive Facebook group, and he's been posting things there about the game. I have also seen Deborah on Geek Gamers do her video, and everything that I've known about the game so far just leads me to believe that this is something that I want to back, because it looks like a combination of a whole bunch of games that I already love. And those are basically, think of this game as combining some of the best elements from Warhammer Quest, Advanced Hero Quest, and Dungeon Universalis all into one game. And you have League of Dungeoneers. So I didn't really want to take a look at it because I wanted to be more surprised about the details when I finally got the game. But everything is in pretty good shape here as far as a prototype goes, so I thought it might be useful to go ahead and take a look at it. Everything that you are going to see on the table and in this video will be in like the base pledge for the Kickstarter, except for the, I believe, except for the standees. The standees are going to be an add-on, and you're going to get about 350 different standees with front and back art. I love the art so far on these standees, and I will definitely be backing the game with the standee add-on, because I don't want to use a bunch of miniatures that won't look as good as the standees. So the game is pretty much designed to be kind of miniature agnostic. And if you have a big collection of minis already from your Warhammer Quest or Advanced Hero Quest collection, or maybe even your like Massive Darkness collection, well, then you can go ahead and use all of those minis, because the monsters and the heroes are pretty typical fantasy. This game isn't bucking fantasy trends. It's not trying to think outside the box in the kind of world that the game is set in. And for me, that is a good thing, because it will be easy to use proxy minis. But I really like the standee art. It's all in color. It has a cohesive look to it. And so here's the prototype box, and it is soloable. It's 1 to 4 players. Based on what I know of League of Dungeoneers, and maybe comparing it to Dungeon Universalis, I would say that League of Dungeoneers is, if you had to choose between the two games, League of Dungeoneers is the game that you would want to get if you want to focus solely on solo play and co-op play. Whereas I think Dungeon Universalis, I think that game really excels in a one versus many style of game, because to me that kind of seems like that is the way that that game is designed. So if you want something a little more like the co-op version of Warhammer Quest, then I think you would want to get Dungeoneers. And in that sense, both of those games, I think, can live in the same collection, because they are approaching the same material, the same genre in a different way. So this is the prototype box. The box that the game is going to come with will be much deeper, because it needs to hold a whole bunch of tiles. And I am of two minds of the tiles, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But this says, so Dungeoneers. Lead your party of heroes in the search of gold and legendary treasure into the dark and forbidding dungeons of the kingdom. I should say that all of the materials that you're going to see today, they are all prototype, and they have not been final. They have not had a final proofread or for grammar and for punctuation and that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. Let's see. Filled with monsters, traps, and other perils, these dungeons will test your heroes to the fullest. With skills and bravery, you will return with precious coin, gear, and magical items. Fail and your heroes will join the countless others who have succumbed to the terrors and found their final resting ground in the dark, dank, ancient halls. Dungeoneers is an old-school dungeon crawler with heavy RPG elements. Using miniatures, standees, or tokens, your heroes will move through randomly created dungeons throughout the kingdom. If you are looking for a game that does have randomly created dungeons with tiles where you lay down and each dungeon is going to be different, this is a game for you. Inspired by the classics in the genre, I would say Warhammer Quest and Advanced Hero Quest. This is definitely a Warhammer Quest derivative, but I don't see that in a bad way. This game takes the concept further, adding more details and an advanced combat system, and that is true. The combat system is more advanced, even more advanced than something like Advanced Hero Quest. It is a little more tactical, and I think it compares more favorably in the combat arena to Dungeon Universalis, which is a very tactical game. With multiple attack options, special talents and perks, magic, alchemical weapons, and battle prayers, there are multiple ways of handling each combat. The dungeons are also populated with furniture or objects that might contain everything from mundane tools to legendary items. What is pretty cool is the elements on the tiles that you see. Those can be searched and those do matter. So it's not just art. The art on the tiles does have a gameplay function. So I do like that. Let's see. The heroes will gain experience and level up, learning new things based on their profession. But you will also have the possibility to customize parts of their development. However, time spent in the dungeons might not only give new skills, but it might also give horrid memories resulting in disorders such as claustrophobia, arachnophobia, or acute stress syndromes, causing the heroes to become less effective in certain situations. Do you have what it takes to become a true Dungeoneer? Okay, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is the rulebook here. Now, the rulebook is pretty hefty. It is not entirely filled with rules. This is a rulebook / quest guide. And I'm hoping that the books are split into two in the base game. I'm hoping the quest book and the rulebook aren't the same book. If they are, that's not a huge problem. But I would actually like to see it be two books. So I know Deborah from the Geek Gamers, in her video, she called this like a dungeon crawling toolkit. And I think that is true, maybe even more so than Dungeon Universalis. I'm not sure. I think so just because of the way that it comes with cards that you build your dungeon with in use with the tiles. Whereas Dungeon Universalis really excels when I think you're using a pre-created dungeon that is revealed room by room by a game master, by a judge, by the dark player in that game. And so I think that game is better when you have something prepared for your players to play, whereas this is you could just set it up with some friends and create a random dungeon and a quest and do that. So this book was printed by Lulu, so this is not the official look of the book. I'm not sure how much it's going to change, but I think the layout is pretty good. I've read through the book. I think the rules are pretty strong. It could definitely use a grammar pass, but I think if you are familiar with games like Warhammer Quest and Advanced Hero Quest and those kinds of Games Workshop games, I think you're going to pick up on things pretty quickly. I like this word on complexity. There are some optional rules that you can leave out or include depending on how complex you want the game to be. And there's also, I like this little kind of like a trigger warning here about the conditions, because it does use things like PTSD and some psychological effects, but it's trying to do so in a respectful way, and the creators, it just wants to know that if they are kind of gamified, that there's no disrespect to people who actually suffer from those mental and psychological conditions. So I do also really appreciate that. And so we have a nice overview of the components. So it does say that some of these components will actually only be included in like deluxe versions. I'm not sure how true that is. I was told that I believe, like I said, everything that you are going to see will be included in the base pledge. So you do have a bunch of monster cards, you have treasure cards, room cards. Those are like the dungeon cards from Warhammer Quest. There is a deck of playing cards that the game comes with, because you can also use playing cards to create a dungeon. I believe that might be something that is included in an add-on. Then you have some travel event cards, some nice handy rules cards, and this big overland travel map, which is really cool. I am so stoked that this game comes with a big travel map like this. Again, like Dungeon Universalis, and also something that is missing from Warhammer Quest. So here you kind of have your hex crawl built in, kind of like getting the fan supplement of hex crawl for Shadows of Brimstone. And that is, of course, another game that this is like. Also, Darklight, Memento Mori, two more Warhammer Quest derivatives. We got some lore here, and this is nice. Right at the front of the book, we have abbreviations and terminology, so you can see what all of the abbreviations mean while you are going to be reading the books. And you kind of just go through the basics. You have your game basics here, a thing about difficulty and house rules, going over the different tiles, going over the object on the tile. So the tiles are also filled with various items such as debris, furniture, and the remnants of previous adventures. These are depicted on the tiles partly to make them more interesting and pleasing to look at, but also serves a purpose in the game. So again, I do really like that the tiles aren't just art. They do have some gameplay elements. You will have a basic turn sequence, which you are going to roll a scenario die, which is going to be a way that you're going to, there's going to be a threat level, and when you roll a die, depending on what the quest tells you to roll, and if you hit a certain number, then something bad is going to happen, and that is kind of how the quest will progress through the rolling of that scenario die. You're going to pick a scenario. There are, I believe, 2 campaigns, one larger campaign and one small campaign, and a series of random quests that you can go on depending on which objective room you choose, kind of like Warhammer Quest again. I'm going to be saying that a lot in this video. And there's also a settlement phase where you can go to different cities and you can interact with different NPCs and different buildings. And that would be how you could buy weapons. You could go to a fortune teller, have different guilds. You can put your gold in a bank and that kind of thing, a fighter's guild, an alchemist's guild. So again, much like Warhammer Quest and Advanced Hero Quest and Darklight and Shadows of Brimstone, it does have that dungeon phase, and then it does have a settlement phase. And then you're also going to have this overland crawl phase, which things can happen. And there are going to be a number of different travel event decks. So depending on if you are traveling on a road or if you are traveling off-road, certain things can happen, such as standing stones. On a light crest, there is a number of oddly shaped stones in a peculiar pattern. The air seems so to shiver around them, and there is a slight humming sound in the air. The party may choose to investigate. If so, you roll a die. So if you rolled, let's say we rolled a 2. The air seems to invigorate the heroes. Randomize a basic stat that is modified by +5 until the party leaves the next dungeon. Oh, nice. Something good to happen. And if you were traveling on the road, you might come across a shrine. So on their journey, the party stumbles across a shrine of Ridnir. Passing by one of these without paying homage is said to be a recipe for bad luck. But not all are strong believers, and they keep their hard-earned money to themselves. If an adventurer tosses coins, 50 coins in the small well roll on this table, we rolled a 2. Ridnir smiles upon the heroes, granting a +1 point of luck during the next test. If the hero decides not to toss some coins, let's see what happens there. Another 2. Ridnir doesn't seem to care, or maybe building up for a bigger surprise later. So again, quite a few of the cards do need that final grammar and language review, and quite a bit of editing. So I'm hoping that that gets I'm hoping that all gets taken care of. So after the basic overview of how the game is played, you do have a really nice gameplay example, and this is very handy. It goes through a number of turns with different examples, and I'm hoping that that is made even more detailed throughout the book, maybe in the final version. And then now we get into our character. So we have our basic stats. And this is one area where I am a little bit hesitant because the characters are pretty complex. This is a character sheet here. So there is a lot to keep track of, and the game is scaled for a 4 adventurer party. You probably can do the Warhammer Quest thing where you have a party of 2 and then divide the number of enemies you come across by half. Or maybe if you come across one strong enemy, you could divide their hit points by half. But it does tell you that the game is balanced for 4, and any balancing that you want to do to add or subtract heroes from your party, you're going to have to take care of that yourself. And because the characters look pretty complex, I think this game is going to take up a lot of space, and it's also going to have quite a bit of bookkeeping because you have all kinds of different things: your strength, your constitution, dexterity, wisdom, resolve, and then what else do you have? Natural armor, energy, movement, luck, a damage bonus. And then you also have all of these skills that will correspond to the different stats here. So you have like a combat skill. Let's see, where were the skills at? Over here. So you have combat skill, range skill, dodge, arcane arts, barter, healing, foraging, picking locks, alchemy, perception, and battle prayers. So there is a lot going on. There are things that you will have to look at your strength to determine certain things, or your constitution or your dex to determine certain things. There are talents and perks that you can learn as your character levels up. And then, of course, what dungeon crawl would be complete without a whole bunch of space for weapons and gear? There are weapon and gear cards, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to want to be using a character sheet, a lot like Shadows of Brimstone, just so you don't have tons of cards just laying around, clogging up the space. We get into here about how to create your characters. It's pretty easy, but it is definitely on the more complex side. I would say it is perhaps even more complex, or you have more agency in creating your characters, and maybe even something like Dungeon Universalis. It's definitely more advanced than Warhammer Quest, Shadows of Brimstone, and Darklight Memento Mori. You have 4 races you can choose from: a dwarf, a halfling, an elf, and a human. You have your professional talents. And finally, you have here your different classes. So there are, I think, 8 classes. There's a wizard, a rogue, a ranger, a barbarian, a warrior priest, a warrior, an alchemist, and a thief. So those are all included in the base game. And you also have a D12 table here for rolling some random backgrounds. We get to the equipment section, which just goes over all kinds of equipment. There is durability in the game. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about that. Sometimes durability can get in the way, and it doesn't always add a sense of fun. It usually just adds more bookkeeping. So that might be something that maybe I don't use. Same as encumbrance, just because I almost never find that things like that really make the game more fun. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. And you can keep, you do need to decide, what you're going to be bringing into each dungeon as you go in. Then here we get into the psychology section. And this is where I think it adds a pretty interesting element to the game, because you do have an ongoing sanity that you need to keep track of. And as things happen to your character, they will become more and more psychologically fragile. And then bad things can happen to them. They can have acute stress syndrome, post-traumatic stress syndrome, fear of the dark, arachnophobia, jumpy, irrational fear, claustrophobia, depression, and hate. And each one of those has a different negative effect that you will have to keep track of, and that will also affect your entire party's morale as a functioning adventuring unit. So that is something pretty cool that you don't see in a lot of these games. And it is probably something that you're just going to have to keep track of from game to game. And as your party grows, not only will they grow in strength and in skill and in treasure and loot and equipment, but they will also become more and more maybe psychologically damaged as they face the fears in the dungeons. So that is really cool. There is a lot of magic in the game. You have magic spells and items and alchemy. There are a ton of potions. I don't think I've ever seen this many potions in a game. I'm hoping that there aren't a ton of chits. Right now we don't have a lot. There are a handful of different chits here. Stuff for like terror and dodging and poisoned and stunned. I'm hoping the game doesn't come with hundreds of chits, especially since we do have these character sheets that we can keep track of stuff on. I definitely do not want to see like tons of tokens for each one of these potions, because that would be a real a real hassle to keep track of. But we've got acidic bombs, liquid fire, poison, potion of constitution, potion of courage, elixir of the archer, potion of cure, poison and antidote, potion of dexterity, dragon breath, dragon skin, potion of fire protection, potion of health, a potion of mana, of wisdom, a vial of corrosion, a vial of smoke, weapon oil, just all kinds of different potions to use. So your alchemist character might be a really cool like utility character to take into battle. Same as your prayers. So your clerics, your warrior priests are going to have different prayers that they can learn. And then here we have our different quests. And so when you start the game, you should randomize the settlement the party starts in, and you're going to have these different settlements are going to be on the map here. So you will start in a random settlement when you start your campaign. And then from there, you kind of will choose whether or not you're going to be playing through one of the campaigns or just going on random quests and side quests and that kind of thing. So we do have a bunch of different room cards. Again, like Warhammer Quest, you are going to be having your objective rooms, and that are going to be like these rooms here. The rooms are going to be printed two-sided, and there are going to be different objectives on each side of the objective room tiles. And so pretty like, I mean, this is pretty much just a Warhammer Quest tile, the Mystic Fountain tile. So I'm not sure if this is going to be changed or not, but some of the tiles are just straight, at least in this prototype version, are basically just Warhammer Quest tiles. So those might need to have some art change for copyright reasons. I'm not sure about that. But you are going to be doing basically the same thing. You're going to be taking your objective rooms and you're going to be mixing those in with other rooms, which are going to include your basic chambers, your dungeon chambers, your basic corridors. Here we have some objective rooms, so you're going to be mixing that in at a certain point and making a stack of dungeon tiles. And as you progress through the dungeon, you're going to be coming here and you might find a door and you draw a card and you put the corresponding tile there and a door in between. So these will be mixed in if you're going on a side quest. And as you can see, each one of these will tell you how many doors it has, and it will also has a suit and number, because you can also use a basic deck of playing cards, and you could draw a card there, and you can have that correspond to one of these pages here, and then you can read a little bit about the room. But that information is also printed on the card. And I do like that it has a little bit of text on each of the cards to give you a little bit of a narrative. So this grand hall is adorned with 2 rows of pillars. On one of the long sides is a small water basin. And there are 2 sinister statues on either side of the room. 2 armor mannequins are propped up against the wall. The statues can be searched and the water in the basin can be drunk. The mannequins can be searched. See notes under furniture chapter. And you also have this search chart here, which is going to, so that was the small bedroom. And that is going to be different things that you can search. So I'm trying to see if a mannequin is on here. But there's a water basin, so if you drink from that, then you roll the die to see what happens. So there are definitely ways to interact with the things in the room, and I really enjoy that. And I also like that there are a couple of different ways that you can use the cards that the game comes with, or a deck of cards, to create your dungeons. So that goes through all of that. That tells you about the scenario die, like I said before, and the threat level, your initial setup here. And then if the party is not in battle, certain things will happen. You kind of have, like in Advanced Hero Quest and Dungeon Universalis, there is kind of, if there are enemies on the map, you are considered to be in battle. If not, you are considered to be exploring. And the game plays slightly different in each one of those phases. There are a bunch of traps. Facing does matter. Combat is much more complex here than in Warhammer Quest. It is more tactical. I don't know if it's as tactical as Dungeon Universalis. If it's not, it's close, but I have a feeling that it is just as tactical. It has a very complex door opening flowchart. So doors, when they're open, there is a chance that they're locked in or trapped. So you do have to take care of both of those situations, and it does have a nice handy chart. So when you roll your dice to determine if something is trapped or locked. Here we have our combat. So as you can see, yeah, the combat is not simple. It's not just you're not just going to be having bottlenecking enemies at a door or taking to corners. Your typical kind of Advanced Hero Quest and Warhammer Quest tactics. There is traveling. Like I said, you can travel on the overland map, and you can have skirmishes when you are out in the travel. And then there is that whole settlement phase, and there are different settlements that you can visit, and each settlement will have different things that you can use. Then it has your treasure. So there are 3 decks of treasure right now. You have mundane treasure, fine treasure, and wonderful treasure. And what's cool is some of these treasure cards do have tables on them. So this magic mail armor right here is actually 6 different pieces of gear, or 5 different pieces of magical mail armor. And so you can get multiple uses out of the same card. So it looks like most of this wonderful treasure is magic, and you have fine treasure, which is probably just a little bit more enchanted weapons or upgraded weapons, things like that. And then of course you also have your mundane treasure, which is going to give you most of your normal weapons and armor and items and that kind of thing. So a lot of treasure in the game. And then of course you can also level up. And when you level up, the game does use a D100 system for your skills and your stats and that kind of thing. But when you level up, you can level up your stats. You can learn specific perks and traits depending on what class you are. Here's your different perks. So there are leader perks, common perks, faith, sneaky, combat perks, arcane, and alchemist perks. And you also have a bunch of different talents. So there are physical, mental, common, combat, sneaky, magic, alchemist, and faith talents. So there is a lot of different ways to upgrade and augment your character once they are created. And then we have all of our tables for all of our different gear. So you can just quickly look up to see how much something costs, what the damage does, and if it has, excuse me, any kind of special traits or anything like that. And then pretty soon here we have our list of spells there, and then we're going to be coming up. So you have a bunch of tables in the back here that you will be using while you are playing the game. Your legendary items, so these are probably quest items. A belt of copper bane, or gauntlets of Hrafnir, the stone of Valkyr, the cloak of Elspia, priestly dice. So all kinds of cool things you can get, magical items. And then here we come to our quest book. And the quest book, again, it's going to have, so you have your campaign of the Dead Rising. So this is the longer main campaign. And you're going to have a series of quests, and it's going to tell you how to set up your quest deck and what you're going to find in the objective room. So that main quest there is, let's see, or campaign there is 3, 5, 6 quests long. And then you have this Lair of the Spider Queen, which is a shorter quest, or a shorter campaign. And then you have these random quests. So you have 6 objective rooms. And each objective room has 3 different quests associated with it. So that will give you 18 random quests that you can pepper throughout your campaign. Additionally, there are also side quests here. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we get into our settlement section, and this is what you're going to turn to when you go into a settlement to figure out what kind of buildings and NPCs and things you can interact with. On top of all of that, it also comes with a very extensive bestiary, and also you will get cards for all of the monsters, so you don't need to constantly be referring to a chart in a book. That is very, very handy to have all of this information for the different kinds of cards. So far we have undead, we have reptiles and beasts. I'm not sure if those are the only kind of classes of enemies, but there are a lot of different monsters to be fighting. Rest assured, you will not be lacking for enemy variety in this game. If you take a look at the bestiary here, in the middle, there is a chart that shows all of the different enemies. So yeah, there are a lot of different monsters in here, and it's really cool that it does have this, this bestiary that is broken out. So you can look up all of the different kinds of stats and special abilities that all the monsters have. And then that information is also on the different cards. So you can have all of that very, very handy. So the last thing we'll take a look at here is some of the tiles. So the game comes with a ton of tiles. And I'm not sure if the game needs this many tiles. I did ask, I said, are all of the tiles that I got in this set, they're all going to be included in the base game? And Michael said yes. So that is just a ton of different tiles. You know me, I like to have a smaller number of tiles just so I don't have to search through stacks of tiles, because I find that often disrupts the flow of the game. And these are also going to be double-sided. I'm not sure, some of them might have different things on the front or back. I'm not sure if they will in the final game or not. But I just wonder if we really do need this many tiles. I mean, we could do with like half of the rooms, maybe half of the corridors, you know, half of the small rooms, and you would still have just an absolute ton of variety. You know, it is good to have a large number of these objective room tiles, because those are going to be the things that really change the game up by giving you different quests. But also conversely, because the art on the tiles also means something, maybe having a lot of different tiles is good in this game. Oftentimes when we have a whole bunch of different tiles, it's just art. The tiles don't really do much to actually add anything to the game except for time to find them. So because the art will be adding different things to the game, then it might be more appealing to have a whole bunch of different tiles. So, but yeah, that is a kind of a detailed look at, whoa, kind of threw some tiles around there. Sorry about that. A detailed look at League of Dungeoneers. Again, if you like games like Warhammer Quest, if you like games like Advanced Hero Quest, Dungeon Universalis, Shadows of Brimstone, and Darklight Memento Mori, this is a game for you. This is a no-brainer back for fans of the Dungeon Dive. I can't imagine anybody who is into these kinds of games not getting League of Dungeoneers. There's just this could be your ultimate dungeon crawl. You know, if you were bummed that you missed Darklight Memento Mori and the collector's prices on eBay, scare you off, you really want that game, just wait. Back this. You're going to get that same kind of feeling from this as you will from Darklight Memento Mori. If the huge number of boxes and the price of getting everything for Shadows of Brimstone puts you off, just wait. You could get this, and it will totally scratch that itch, although in a fantasy setting. If the crazy prices of Warhammer Quest and Advanced Hero Quest put you off, just wait. I'm sure this was going to be quite a bit cheaper on Kickstarter than paying the crazy eBay prices for those two games. And if you maybe aren't into the one versus many focus of Dungeon Universalis, and maybe you didn't get that game because of that, then this game could easily scratch an itch that you were looking to have scratched with that game. So I can't imagine people not backing this game who watch this channel. It looks like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic, kind of all-encompassing dungeon crawl with cool quests, cool characters, a lot of loot, and a lot of different random quests, so you can just keep playing those really cool character-driven campaigns that you're not going to be reading a whole bunch of text, you're not going to be consulting a storybook. It's all going to be about the gameplay and the characters and going on quests. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at League of Dungeoneers. And stay tuned to the Kickstarter that's going to be coming up in March. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.